So I suppose we will begin with calling it to order at 7:05, a little bit, a couple minutes behind. I think somebody's still got a mic on. They need to lower the volume. That being the case, if we can get a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Valerie Renthaler. Here. Norma Greco.
Here.
Adam McDowell.
I see him, but I think he needs to demute.
He's muted.
Are you here, Adam? No, that I can see
here.
You.
Sorry.
No worries.
No problem. Kevin Collins. Here. Matt Castiglia.
Present.
Diane Law.
See her there, but I don't see that she's unmuted yet. Diane, if you can unmute, it'd be great to acknowledge that you are here. If not, okay.
And Mayor Paul Gamrat.
Here.
And the President.
I am here. And we'll keep an eye out for Diane. I think there may be a slight issue there, and we'll get that addressed. So, okay. Having kind of cleared through that that lens, at this point we move straight into again one of the kind of primary reasons that we all get together. I'm getting pointed to. This is my own kind of getting back in person. We cannot begin without doing our Pledge of Allegiance. So my apologies as someone who has served my time, least I can do. So we can stand if you're able, raise your hand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah. Okay, now, thank you all for the pledge. So if I can kind of move our way forward here, at this time we kind of move on to what are the public comment portion. First of all, before we begin public comment, I hope everyone is able to hear me well. I know we've made some adjustments to ensure that that is the case. I know there was some confusion last week, but that has been addressed. So I will turn it over and we'll go through public comment. We will again kind of call. If you're able to raise your hand using if you put the raise your hand, I will see your hand raised, at which time I will be able to call on you and provide you kind of access. At that point, you will be made a presenter where you're able to turn your camera on if you'd like to be seen, and then speak. So it appears that we have a few. So I don't know
Mr. President?
Yes.
If I could, it might be helpful if I provide just my normal update, since we have some big Hillwood / Amazon related dates in front of us, to try to maybe answer some questions in advance.
Sure. Not a problem. Pleasure is mine to allow you to do so.
All right, thank you. And let me note, at least on my end, you're coming through loud and clear. Kevin and Valerie were a little bit low, so I think Alex is working on that. But generally, much better than last week. So far so good on that. Wanted to let everyone know, I think everyone's aware that the Planning Commission meeting, where we expect a vote to recommend or not recommend or recommend with conditions on the Hillwood application, is scheduled for 7:00 p.m. Via Zoom on Wednesday, the 14th of July. The conditional use hearing is scheduled for July 19th, and that's a 6 p.m. start. Similarly, that will be primarily via Zoom. I know that the borough does have accommodations as set forth on the website and in the advertisement for a limited number of folks who lack the technical capability to participate via Zoom. So there will be, again, some limited space where folks can come down to the borough building. I think that will likely be the Yeagle room to participate on the borough's Zoom account there on the big screen. So hopefully we'll allow everyone to have be able to meaningfully participate in that conditional use hearing. The conditional use hearing itself, the exact order, it has not yet been determined. We're somewhat gonna try and map that out as best we can, and we'll set sort of the final agenda prior to that meeting starting. But I did want to just sort of run down some of the elements of that hearing. And again, that is the hearing where council will, for at least one night, but we expect it to be multiple nights, hear evidence both for and against the pending conditional use application, seeking to develop the former Westinghouse site as a distribution center. The applicant will have an opportunity to present its case, led by its legal counsel. They'll have witnesses. They'll present documents, plans, studies, etc., to establish or an attempt to establish that they meet the criteria in the zoning code. There will be sort of two sets of public participation, and it's I'll do the best I can. It's a little bit there's a little bit of a legal nuance to it, so I don't want to get too far afield, too far in the weeds, I guess I should say. But there are sort of two types of public that will be recognized. One will be what we'll call party objectors, and those will be the folks who will be required to establish standing, that they will essentially be parties to the hearing. In other words, they will have the ability to cross-examine witnesses from the applicant, to put on their own witnesses, in addition to providing their own testimony. Legal standing to be a party objector, again, is a bit of a nuanced concept. There's no, black and white as to whether or not you have standing. It sort of depends on the development. It depends on maybe your distance away from the development, how you are potentially substantially and directly and immediately impacted by the decision of council related to the development. So that's something that's going to have to be determined at the hearing. We have received some requests from residents to be party objectors. That's something, again, that we will have to establish at the start of the hearing. In addition to the applicant's case, the party objector's case, and let me note too that those party objectors who are represented by their own legal counsel, their legal counsel will be the one who essentially presents their case. So if they have retained legal counsel, it will be their legal counsel who does the questioning, both of their witnesses and the cross-examination of the applicant's witnesses. If there's party objectors who don't have legal counsel, they will just handle that themselves, however they plan to present their case. Understanding that they're not lawyers, I will certainly work with them to try to make sure that they get all of the evidence and testimony into the record that they want to get in there. And that's an important thing to note. There will be a court reporter taking down all the testimony and recording all the evidence. And for that reason, I would ask that if there are party objectors, and as well as the applicant themselves, they've already been notified of this, that we are asking that all exhibits, plans, studies, reports, things like that, be submitted to the borough manager in advance of the hearing. We like to think that we have a good handle on the technology, but to the extent that it's an electronic document that we need assistance in putting up on the screen for everyone to see, it will be helpful to have that information provided in advance, and it will also just help the order of the hearing so that we're not sort of scrambling on the fly to make sure that those documents are properly entered into the record. In addition to party objectors, the general public will also be permitted to provide comments, and that will occur at the end of the hearing. So those folks who are not seeking party objector status will nonetheless have an opportunity to provide testimony in support of their position, whether it's for or against the application. And again, that will happen at the end. They will not be subject to the 3-minute time limit that we have for our regular public meetings. There will be a report, or we'll request a report from the borough engineer and their subconsultants with respect to the criteria, the studies that have been submitted, and their reviews of those studies. Borough Council will have an opportunity to ask questions. My recommendation will be that they wait until the end prior to the public comment portion of the testimony, but that's going to be up to Borough Council. And then again, finally, there will be the public comment that will close things out. So we are uncertain as to how long the hearing will take, but we're not bound by any unreasonable time constraints. So we will, right now we plan to start the hearing at 6 o'clock on the 19th. The tentative second date for the hearing will be Thursday that week. I believe that's the 22nd, and that would also be at 6 p.m. And that will essentially, it will depend on where we got to the first night to see, where we're going to start off on Thursday. And council at this time, I don't believe has made a determination as to whether there will be a hard stop at a certain time in the evening, or whether we'll wait to just a time that's convenient for everybody, or it seems like a good stopping point. So that's to be determined as well. So I think with that, Mr. Dwarn, unless you have something else that you want me to cover, or if I misstated anything or need to clarify anything, I'm happy to do so.
No, again, I think you have, as always, tried to give a kind of broad view for people to understand the nature and process in which we're in. So I appreciate that. But it does move us into the space of listening to public comment for today. Again, in this kind of webinar space, just to be clear, if you wish to raise your hand to be called on, at the bottom, there's generally a raise your hand. If you have if you're confused or have a question on how to do this as a process, then you can also kind of enter into the Q&A. And I am being intentionally a little bit loud so that people can hear me. So I hope everyone is able to hear me just fine.
So when the president of council calls your name, you will be moved from an attendee within the webinar to a presenter, at which time you will unmute yourself and have the opportunity to turn your camera on. At 3 minutes, the president will ask you to stop, politely as he does at each meeting, and then you'll be moved back to become as a regular attendee.
And as a little bit of clarity, I won't start that kind of count clock until you're able to get yourself going. So if there's an issue or trying to unmute yourself or something, I'm not going to take that from people's time. That's for certain. That being the case, I see a couple hands up right now. So I'm going to start with Kathy Bordner. So Kathy, you should be able to unmute and speak at this time.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, my name is Kathy Bordner. I live at 1926 Hampstead Drive. The Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office completed a historic survey form on January 2021 of the former Westinghouse R&D site and determined the site is potentially eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. Because federal permitting will be required, a Section 106 review is required. Section 106 requires federal agencies to consider the effects of projects they carry out, approve, or fund on historic properties. I have submitted a request to the Pennsylvania SHPO to be a consulting party in this process. My home is 792 feet from the project. My neighborhood, Royal Oak Manor, may also be potentially eligible for listing on the National Register. This project will impact my neighborhood as well as destroy all of the historic resources on the site. Therefore, there will be negative impacts on historic resources. On July 19th, the borough will hold a public hearing on Hillwood's application for conditional use permit. The Borough Council must vote to approve or deny within 45 days. I've been told that if the borough approves a permit, Hillwood can immediately begin work preparing the site, even if they do not have a highway occupancy permit or other required third-party permits. If Hillwood does that, they will destroy the historic resources on the site before the Section 106 review process has taken place. The National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 says that each federal agency shall ensure that the agency will not grant a loan guarantee, permit, license, or other assistance to an applicant who, with intent, to avoid the requirements of Section 106 has intentionally, significantly, adversely affected a historic property to which the grant would relate. Hillwood must not be allowed to begin work on the site until after the Section 106 process has been completed. If they do demolish historic resources before the Section 106 review process has been completed, federal agencies could and should deny permits for the project. Other residents of Churchill or organizations, churches, garden clubs interested in being consulting parties in the Section 106 review process can contact me at my email, kathy.bordner@gmail.com. I will help you apply. It is very easy. Consulting party status entitles you to share your views, receive and review pertinent information, other ideas, and consider possible solutions together with the federal agency and other consulting parties. And I'd like to go on the record and complain about this format. I cannot see other people who are participating in this meeting. And for the public hearing to be in this format is unacceptable. So I respectfully ask the borough to reconsider your decision. The COVID cases are not that high right now. And again, anyone in the public who wants to be a consulting party for the Section 106 review process, please contact me. Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy, for your time. I generally, I keep it to that time limit. So I appreciate your time and your comment. We're going to move forward to April Klein. So April, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak. So we can see you there, April. So I think yeah, April, we can see you there. So if you just want to unmute yourself, and you're unmuted, so we're not sure, we're not hearing you. April, if you're having a complication, you can certainly put it in the chat. Let me check the chat real quick to see if April is having any kind of complication. You get the QA format. I want to see if, before I move past her real quickly. Yeah, which means she was able to chat, but I just don't see, I don't see any additional comment from her. What I'm going to do is I will come back to you, April, because I can see that you were able to comment previously, and I don't see any comments since. So not quite sure what the issue is there.
So I promoted Peter Spurdy, so he can go ahead and unmute
Why don't we move
himself.
forward to Peter? The floor is yours. Again, as a reminder, if you can state your name and your address as we move forward.
Yes, my name is Peter Spurdy, and I live at 1903 Hampstead Drive. It's not letting me screen share. I looked at the latest letter from the borough engineer, Dennis Flynn of Gateway Engineers, with the subject line Churchill Creek Development, dated July 2nd, 2021. The letter concludes that, in our opinion, the proposed development meets all the standards in Ordinance 755, except for the submission of an approved parking study. However, in the same letter, Gateway remarks that many other comments must still be addressed. Thus, it appears that what Gateway's conclusion means is that the reports on traffic, stormwater, noise, and air quality have been submitted, but that not all the comments made in the engineering review of them have been addressed. And in fact, even some of the comments that have received comment address status are made on the basis of promises by Hillwood or Langen to resolve the concern in the future. This is very troubling because I do not feel it is appropriate to approve the conditional use permit on this basis. These promises are not just a matter of waiting for a permit to be approved by the relevant agency, which is not unreasonable if there were no outstanding issues involved. These comments are of a different kind. They are a matter of important engineering documentation, analyses, or design decisions. They should not be unresolved or undetermined at the point of approving a conditional use. A design detail in one part of the project can have an unintended effect on another, and tight design control involving the entire project as a whole is important, as well as a review by the borough. These should not be left unsettled in approving a conditional use permit. Council has three options. Option one is to say yes and hope all the loose ends work out. A very likely outcome of this is a geotechnical disaster, likely during construction, leaving an abandoned mess requiring borough attention and ruling out the possibility of a development on the site for decades. This is what happened to Kilbuck Township. The most optimistic outcome, a project that burdens community in terms of poor air quality, noise, miserable traffic congestion, and dangerous accidents, and a drain on the borough's finances and administrative attention. It precludes other beneficial uses of property due to the massive size. Even once the tenant leaves the building, the problem will not end. Instead, the community will be left with the end-of-life problems of huge retaining walls, an artificial stormwater system that requires constant monitoring and frequent maintenance, in a largely special purpose building containing a huge amount of e-waste from all the automated machinery. What council should do is to say no and lay the groundwork for applications for an appropriate project and wait to approve until there are very few loose ends, which can be assured to be under good design control. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. We're going to move forward to Susan Sturt. And just as a side note, if you're calling via phone, we may have to kind of unmute you. And so if you did call versus via phone, as I normally do, I go to the phone people kind of after I've gone through everyone else. So that was my mistake if I've called somebody out of order. So moving forward to Susan.
Hi. I just got a notice that the host has disabled screen sharing. I thought I was going to be able to screen share.
So you can, if I permit you to, so I'll do that now. So just give me a moment.
Okay.
Thanks, Susan, for your patience. And it's really appreciative when you ask for it.
Thank you. Okay, let's try it
So,
now.
yeah, give that a try.
All right.
So this was something we would not have been able to do in a Zoom meeting, which we're showing that you can do this in the webinar format. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Can you see slides? Are they
Yes.
strictly centered, or are they off the screen?
Pretty good.
Can you see them? Okay. All right. My name is Susan G. Starrett. I currently reside at 1903 Hampstead Drive in Churchill, and I too have been following the reviews of the Churchill Creek documents by the borough engineer, and I might add with great empathy. Due to the complexity of the project, this work involves reviewing a great number of documents, many incomplete and inconclusive, on which multiple rounds of comments must be patiently provided. So I actually am someone who appreciates what the borough engineer is doing, but I think everyone ought to be aware that there's still a lot of design work that's left till later based on the number of comments that need to be addressed. Now we're within a week of the public hearing on conditional use application, and I feel there are some red flags. In the engineering ethics course I teach, we examine disasters. Okay, so here's an example. You can just look at some of the comments that need to be addressed. In the engineering ethics course I teach, we examine disasters, and there are too many things this project has in common with mega project disasters that I'm familiar with. And here's three that you might recognize: the Hyatt Regency Skywalk disaster, the City Core Tower, which actually didn't fall but was in danger of, and then recently, of course, the Surfside Miami condo tower. And they're all cases that are different, but they're cases where concerns were raised but not addressed in time. And so I wanted to think about what lessons we can learn from these. The Hyatt Regency Skywalk, one connection detail was changed to a different design and verbally okayed. The idea was, oh, we'll work out the paperwork later. We'll do an analysis later. Their client repeatedly raised concerns. They weren't really addressed. And so the lesson there, I think, is don't be complacent about design concerns, even if they're raised by non-expert stakeholders or an expert who hasn't absolutely proven that it'll cause disaster. The City Core design, that was a new design, and it met specific requirements for wind, but because it was a novel situation, which I think this site is novel in some ways, it really required extra attention, things that weren't specifically called out in the code standards to do. That was actually caught in time, but I think the lesson is you need to do more than the minimum called out in the standard codes. People actually were at risk. It just that the storm didn't hit before they fixed it. I think that's true for any mega project. The Miami Tower, of course, they're still investigating. Many are in disbelief, but I still think a lesson here is it's a case of a concern that was raised but not resolved in time. So less well-known local example, I just looked this up this week. I'd heard about this landslide, and I looked up the story and read the report. And this is a case where the developer argued that there was too much soil to remove. So all the soil would be kept on site and they'd build a high retaining wall. And of course, this is what's happening with the Churchill site. And residents and others with expertise identified concerns. And I think people's concerns ought to be listened to, even if they aren't registered experts. People do have knowledge from living in the area. The Killbuck Township Board had the legal power to make the judgment that the concerns raised didn't warrant a change. They approved the application. There was a disaster, a landslide. It was stabilized, a repeat of the disaster.
Susan,
it went on.
Super appreciate this. And
all right, I'll end with this. I hope you'll think about that, what the lesson is, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you, and thank you for your understanding and compliance with the time constraints. But I definitely appreciate on all ends. I'm going to move forward. Let me see what else I have. Next on the list is I can't quite see the name because you have it over the allow to talk. Elizabeth
Casman.
Sorry, I can't see when you have it over there like that, Alex. So Elizabeth, the floor is yours. Again, if you can state your name, address, and please feel free to unmute and speak when you are ready.
My name is Elizabeth Casman. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I want to speak to some of the specifics that that Peter Spurdes mentioned so succinctly and beautifully about the letter from Gateway's, the analysis of Gateway's sign off on Hillwood submissions addressed to Alex. The first point is that there's excess parking capacity in the current plan. There's a table that shows that there's vehicular parking for non-trucks at 1,784 vehicles when the maximum projected employment is 1,500. So if they're on 3-hour shifts, they only really need 500 vehicular parking spaces. So the borough has told them that they have too many parking spaces. Your consultant has told them there's too many parking spaces. And the more parking spaces, the more impervious area and the more runoff. And so the borough should not accept the current plan, and you should demand that the parking spaces be reduced to 500 plus or minus 50. That would be fair. So none of the intersections modifications that Gateway, Hillwood proposed talks anything about sidewalks and pedestrian signaling, and I think that's a big omission. And then the comment number 9 by Gateway, they talk about water quality spreadsheet errors, and there's some arm waving about how they weren't allowed to fill in certain numbers in the spreadsheet. But I think Gateway should check the arithmetic independently before signing off on these numbers. On comment number 12, there's a 100-year storm floodplain at the tributary to Sawmill Run that intersects a 56-foot retaining wall at the southwest corner of the building. This hasn't changed with the new submittal of the drawings. The water will still slosh against the wall in a 100-year storm. The wall must be moved back so it doesn't get undermined by the big storms. And so what all that Hillwood did was erase the line that goes underneath the retaining wall. That's really insufficient. For Gateway's comment 13, it says that it still hasn't determined if the the Beulah storm sewer can handle the stormwater flow, and Hillwood proposes that they'll analyze it later. And they beg you not to let this impede the process. But the whole project hinges on this detail, and it should not be glossed over. If the sewer can't take the water, the project is dead. It's essential that the council know this before any time or more money is wasted on this project. Okay, comment 16. In the Churchill Code, it specifically requires that the volume of the first inch of the runoff from the net increase of impervious area be permanently removed. And the Hillwood's response is, well, environmental constraints of the site, no infiltration is recommended within the site boundary. So why isn't this a deal breaker? It's in our code. The reason no infiltration is
Thank you, Elizabeth. Unfortunately, that's the 3-minute time.
I'll send the rest in.
I appreciate your comments as always. I know it's frustrating, but I do have to keep it on a time limit so that we're giving everyone an equal kind of say. But I do thank you and appreciate your comment. We're going to move forward now to Ken Balke. Ken, the floor is yours, sir.
Can you see and hear me?
I can see and hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. My comments here this evening, I'm not going to get into any technical information. I'll leave that for Wednesday evening or in the hearing next week. The reason I raised my hand is it's to ask some clarification building upon Gavin's opening comments, and I'm sure there's others joining here this evening that may be in the same situation I am. Over the last couple of weeks and over the weekend, our tree committee completed a report that I was able to submit to Alex this afternoon that has a response to the tree survey that was done by Walter Jarash on behalf of Hillwood back in April and May. And I don't want to get into the technical details of it, but the question I have is based on what Gavin presented this evening. If I want to speak, it sounds as though that the party objectors or with legal counsel or party without legal, and as well as the general public, that folks are not limited to 3 minutes during this hearing. I wanted to clarify that. And then the question I had is, because Gavin said we'll figure it out on Monday night, next Monday night, December 19th. I prefer not to go into meetings that way where as a speaker and being prepared, I have no idea until you get there. That's actually difficult to respond. The question I have is, because I'm representing the tree committee, not myself as an individual, but on behalf of the borough, do I have to come in as a party objector, or can I come in as general public and I'll have the 3 minutes? And can I just do what Susan Starrett just did very well? You have a few slides that would help accentuate comments that we'd like to make. So that's my comments, and I'd really appreciate if Gavin and others could clarify. And I understand this is all new for many of everyone on here, but it would just really would help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. I think as a matter of course with this, I normally don't do any kind of real back and forth. However, in this particular case, I will ensure that Gavin speaks to that point when we finish up. We go around and I have everyone kind of have their around the table, and so I'll make sure that that's noted and covered for us, because I think it's not just a question that you have, right, in terms of what the rules are. I'm sure it's a question that many of us have. So I will make sure that is covered before we end our meeting today.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Gavin, I see you've unmuted.
I just think, it might be helpful if I just maybe jump in real quick. And due respect, it's your meeting, but yeah, I just wanted to clarify. And I thought I said this, but if I didn't, or if I wasn't clear, there's no time limit, not for party objectors, not for council members. So it doesn't matter. Mr. Balke comes in as a member of the tree committee or as an individual citizen. My understanding, this borough council wants to hear from its residents and wants to let them provide, ample testimony to support their position. So As a member of the tree committee, that would not be a party objector. But again, Mr. Bulkey can speak individually or as a member of the tree committee. And I think, unless council directs me otherwise, we are allowing those folks to submit things like Ms. Starrett did. And again, ideally, if those are submitted to Alex in advance, I think that's particularly helpful. So hopefully that answers the question.
So the webinar format, it allows us to do what Susan did, which was share her own screen and her own slides. It also allows participants to do Q&A, and we've answered 22 questions since this meeting started, which we weren't able to do as easily because we didn't have a chat option within the regular Zoom format. So there was another way. So I'll work with you, Ken. I'll work with anybody. I know Kathy already asked, how can she learn how to do slides? We'll spend lots of time between now and next Monday and however time we need to do to being able to enable participants to share pertinent slides.
Thank you for that, for both the citizens, quite frankly, if you're working with them on how to create and share slides. That's kind of an above and beyond space, to be quite frank, generally speaking. When you come to a public hearing, irrespective of what's going on, it's on you to kind of sort those spaces out. And so again, I think we're trying as much as we can, as hard as we can, irrespective of anyone's position, to make sure that they have the best way and the safest, but also most effective way to be heard. So I appreciate hearing that, Alex. I'm going to move forward to, looks like Lori, if you can, again, we'll make you a presenter. You'll be able to talk. If you can please state your name and address, and the floor will be yours for 3 minutes.
Greetings, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, hello everyone. This is a different concern that I am raising. My name is Lori Allen and I reside at 220 Thornberry Drive. A few weeks ago, I witnessed my neighbors at 216 Thornberry Drive. Their vicious German shepherds were roaming through my backyard. And that's due to the fact that they failed to shut their gate. This has happened before. The reason why I know the dogs are vicious is because I remember the husband stating that they did not need a security alarm because their dogs were trained to attack. I do have 2 small grandchildren that visit me often, and they're always playing in the backyard. I also have a son that's blind, and every time he goes outside, you know, I fear for him. I put up with the neighbors for 4 years, you know, letting them on the weekends while we're trying to sleep in. You know, they let the dogs out. The dogs are a nuisance. They're barking. It's early in the morning. And every time I open my garage, I fear that, you know, that gate may be open and that I may be attacked. You know, we just invested thousands of dollars in our backyard on our patio. And unfortunately, due to these dangerous dogs, we are not comfortable sitting outside. I planted plants on that side of the fence, and you know, I totally refuse to go over there to water the plants because fear, you know, of the vicious dogs. We have to spend an extra expense to put a gate up to keep the dogs from coming in, and I really feel that it's totally unacceptable that there's not just one, but there's 2. And I feel that there should be a code enforcement on residents having vicious and dangerous dogs in Church Hill. Because there are plenty of people that I see daily up and down Thornberry. If they're not jogging, they're walking. And it should be a peaceful type neighborhood where you don't have to fear being attacked when you leave your house. And it's so unfortunate that my husband and we're discussing putting our home up to move out Murraysville, where we feel that we may feel safe, be at peace. And we did definitely seek legal advice in case, you know, something like this should arise again. So I just wanted to bring that to the borough's attention. I don't know what can be done, but I do know that vicious dogs roaming through your yard, your property, is totally unacceptable. And I thank everyone for listening. I thank you for your time.
Lloyd, thank you for your comment, and obviously that's something that's of concern. I will say it is something where we're aware. We know kind of some steps you've taken, and I'll make sure that the borough follows up with you tomorrow, so we can see where we can be most effective and helpful. The issue of any, I have a big huge puppy that if you didn't know it, people would be concerned about, and I certainly wouldn't want it leaving my property, because it's the sweetest dog in the world, but it's a 115-pound 1-year-old bull mastiff, and if it was roaming in other people's yards, that would be a real concern, and would be something that we should take seriously. So there's an expectation, a dog, just like anything else, is going, you're going to have it under control on your property and behaving in a way that's safe. So we appreciate your comment, and again, it's certainly something that we take seriously. I'm going to move forward to, looks like I've got a phone number ending in 9716. If you can state your name and your address, happy to hear from you.
I do not believe that's a phone number. I believe that's a call. That's a computer user.
Okay. Well, they are a presenter at this point, so if they unmute, what's that?
Did you raise your hand?
Yeah. There you are. You are live with us, and we can hear you.
Oh.
Am I to speak now?
Yes.
This is Barry Kisloff at 176 Thornberry Drive. I have been trying to get some information from the borough. As the solicitor has repeatedly told us, the Planning Commission will make a judgment based upon documents submitted to the proper authorities for their approval, whether it's light control, sound control, or traffic control. It's my understanding, perhaps erroneously, that the Planning Commission cannot act upon any proposal until all of the proposals have been either approved or disapproved. Now, one of the more important issues facing the borough, and in fact the entire eastern suburbs, with reference to this planned development by Amazon, is traffic. And I know that PennDOT is currently doing an impact study, which is not complete and which will not be complete by the time of the Planning Commission meeting. So my question to you, and I have been trying to get this question answered unsuccessfully via email, is what is the purpose of the Planning Commission meeting when in fact one of the principal authorities that have judgment over this matter has not and does not appear to be ready to submit a judgment in the immediate future? I would appreciate some form of response to this very simple question. Why have a Planning Commission meeting when one of the principal authorities has not yet rendered judgment?
So thank you for your comments. In a quick version, I can't really get into, this is part of it, as council, planning will make their decision and recommendation, and council will make ours. So I'm not really going to jump into the Planning Commission space, especially at this time, with what we have going on. But I think after we have addressed the kind of public hearing and whatnot, I'm happy to have a more detailed conversation. This is not a discussion. I will tell you now that that's as much as we're really able to kind of have that discussion. I realize you're saying that you have emailed the solicitor. I will speak with the solicitor to that effect. And in the end of this, in fact, may have to make a comment regarding that, so that at least we have some response to it. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. I appreciate again your comments without question. This is going to move us to, am I on to Sandy or am I on to, yes, to Sandy Fox. Sandy, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Sandy Fox at 38 Holland Road. I just want to voice my consternation at this format. Very hard to hear you, Jay. I can hear the others better, but when there's no video, it's particularly difficult. I do some lip reading in addition to hearing, and I do have some hearing impairment. And I think this process is discriminatory as a result of the hearing difficulties and without the clear visuals always being available. And I hope that is addressed in advance of the public hearing, because we have very important matters to discuss there, and we don't need a system that is interfering. About 10 minutes ago, all the voices were distorted for a period of time. So this is very troubling.
I just want to make sure you're done, because I do want to respond to you and let you know that just as kind of a side note, I spent the last 20 years working in civil rights work, and particularly developing a methodology to address discrimination against the deaf and hard of hearing. And so if you're asking for a reasonable accommodation in order to ensure that you have full ability to fully participate under Title II of the ADA, that accommodation we have made available to anyone who needs it. Obviously, we are providing actually a separate space here at the Borough building for people who are in fact verifiably, need an accommodation. And if that is the case, and we are able to, and most of the time we may or may not, depending on the individual's level of disability, require third-party verification. But generally speaking, if an individual needs a reasonable accommodation, please contact the Borough and let us know. And that goes both with regard to deaf and hard of hearing, but for if you are blind or sight impaired, and so we certainly stand in a space to ensure that accommodations are made available. I would also kind of point out to everybody, just as kind of a matter of fact, the reasonable accommodation process does not necessarily mean exactly the accommodation that one requests. It means that there's an accommodation that makes kind of full use and access to this particular process available to you. And oftentimes that is maintained under what's called the interactive process, where somebody says, hey, I want 50 things, and upon review, what's actually necessary may be A, B, and C. So that being the case, I certainly respect your statement, Ms. Fox, and if an accommodation is necessary, please let the borough manager know so that we're able to afford that to you. Thank you. Moving forward, let me see who else I have on the list. I have Eric Grotzinger's up next. Eric, the
Thanks,
floor is
Jay.
yours.
I have commented many times that we need to rely on the process governed by the conditional use ordinance. This process requires reliance on professional work of engineers, consultants, and other experts, as well as the relevant science and facts. And I am looking forward to the meeting, the Planning Commission meeting on Wednesday night, where these reports will be made available to us, and then we can comment. And I also want to mention the economic benefit of this project.
Few other project benefits that have not changed since this project was first proposed. It will supply needed tax revenues for many years to Churchill to solve existing problems. It will also supply significant tax revenues to the Woodland Hills School District. It will prevent or minimize future residential tax hikes. Based on an estimated value of $300 million, there will be new annual estate tax revenues of over $2 million for the borough, over $8 million for the Woodland Hills School District, and over $1 million for the county. As citizens, we need to think seriously about the financial projections for the borough and the Woodland Hills School District with and without this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And can you, again, Eric, state your name and address? I think we missed
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry, Jay. It's Eric Rotzinger, 2373 Hollywood Drive.
Thank you. I'm looking to see if we have any other folks raising your hand. Yeah, April, I forgot on the phone line. I think we have Jim DePerna, and then we'll go back to the phones, which is April's on phone. So
because Jim moved himself around, I need to track him down. So I'm promoting him up.
okay. All right. Jim, the floor is yours. I got you in here, Jim, but I can't see or hear you today. Is Jim another phone caller? Yep. Hey, Jim, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes,
like
I'm
there you
unmuted.
go. Outstanding.
How do I
All
get a picture? Can I get a picture in there?
That's up to your camera. That part I can't do for you.
Okay, where is
Turn
it?
your camera on, you'll get a picture.
It's got I don't know what's going on. Anyway, this is a little more complicated than I'm used to. But anyway, I'd like to ask a question of the that I raised last meeting, which was a question of whether or not we have indulged in spot zoning by just making the proposed modification to the site, Westinghouse site, for a single landowner for a single site. And it's my understanding that spot zoning is illegal and that there are other ways to go about it. But if the solicitor would address that, I would appreciate it. And also, if the borough engineer would just advise me whether or not, all the properties in Churchill are undermined, and whether or not that has been factored into the design of this project. And I had a question about the Schaefer School, but that would be that question would be how the number of units at 40 units was determined. Perhaps the borough engineer could enlighten me about that. And that's the three questions I have.
I appreciate it, and I'll make sure that the solicitor and the engineer can at least address some of those. I can tell you that things like determining how many units are going to go on a site is not something that we would be involved in. That's something that the developer would make that determination. So I don't think it's a borough engineering question. But that being the case, I will make sure that those other issues are brought up as we move forward.
Well, the reason I'm asking, Jay, is this developer was involved when the Woodland Hills administration building site became open, and he miscalculated and highly inflated the number of units. So the borough should take a look at it and make sure that the calculation of the number of units is accurate.
So again, and I don't want to do back and forth with you, so that's kind of time for you, but I will say that it goes through the same process as any other development, including what we'll talk about the planning commission, and they have to submit the reports. So it doesn't change because it's a small development or a large development because it's the Schaefer site or any other site. But I appreciate, again, your comments in that space. Yeah, I didn't catch your address again today, Jim. So if you want to restate it before I kind of pluck you off, that would be great. You might be muted out. Okay. Well, I will be more vigilant in the front end of it today. I've been a little off on my state your name and address. And let's let a couple people slide on it, I suppose. So we're going to move forward, and I've got, did I just see Kate? So Kate Kerrigan-Hill. And then April, don't worry, I've still got you on the phone line. I promise you. I've talked to Krista, and we'll make sure that you get an opportunity as well. So Kate, the floor is yours. Please state your name and your address before you speak. So I do need you to unmute for me. Kate, you're in, but you gotta unmute if you want to speak.
I'll try one last time.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
You're there. You got it.
Okay. I am also looking forward to the public hearing because I am looking forward to what residents of Churchill have to say. I had breakfast with a friend yesterday. She doesn't live here, and I drove her around the site, took her on the parkway, drove her through Churchill. She was unfamiliar with all of it, and she was really impressed with just how beautiful it is and how lush it is. And I explained to her that I've met so many people that I've learned so much from. We have experts in the neighborhood who understand this so well and are asking all of the right questions, and they are finding mistakes that have been made. And I think what this project will also bring, besides revenue, is a tremendous amount of harm to this borough. And I think it'll provide danger and traffic that will be insurmountable. I think it will provide an amazing amount of diesel pollution from trucks that I know are going to be idling on Greensburg Pike. I believe that it will also provide a really pretty hideous landscape once the trees are down and that monstrosity is built. And I also believe that it will provide a lot of homes that go up for sale either stay vacant or become rental property. Because I've talked to enough people who don't want to stick around for this. I will say this again, we are not opposed to jobs and development at the site. We are opposed, obviously, to what this looks like. We've sent in articles, we've done our research. We have found articles from all over the country about how Amazon has destroyed roads, destroyed communities, just destroyed air quality. So you're dealing with a bunch of people who are so invested in maintaining the beauty and the sanctity, and we have such respect for this borough that we're on this. And I think it's also important to say, as citizens, we have a responsibility to ourselves, to our kids, to our neighborhood, and to each other. And it is not to watch something be destroyed and then watch so many of us leave. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. I'm going to move forward to, looks like Dave Bordner is under Kathy's name. So it's not a duplicate, and therefore I want to make sure that there is ample time for you to speak as well. So Dave, the floor is yours now.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I first want to say this system is so clumsy that you're going to extend this public hearing by about a third. Just people logging on and logging off. It's ridiculous. I don't know why it changed. But the point I want to make, and I'm going to try to be brief, is there are over 400 homes within 1,000 feet of this facility. They're going to be the most impacted. Now, I've looked as much as I can to try to find similar sized facilities, 2.9 million, in residential communities. There are none. So we're going to be the test case. We're going to be the one that, we're going to be the cautionary tale. That 400 homes is 1/3 of Churchill's property, or of Churchill's residents. So you're going to put 1/3 of Churchill's residents at risk of the highest impact without knowing what's going to happen. So that's all I have to say.
I appreciate your comment. Duly noted. As it turns out, to your point, that includes many of the council members that live within that same area. I'm going to move forward to Mary Ann Baker. Mary, again, if you could state your name and your address, and then at that point, the floor will be yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Great. Mary Ann Baker, 19 Churchill Road. The big hook politicians used to reel in support for the Hillwood Amazon project is jobs. Cities and towns often court Amazon aggressively, hoping the company will deliver much needed jobs. But are these jobs good? Current and former employees paint a picture of a high-stress workplace where workers are constantly monitored and required to meet demanding production quotas. Most jobs are those of pickers and packers. Pickers pull merchandise off storage shelves, place them in bins, then put the bins on conveyor belts to be taken to the packers. The packers package up the products, slap a label on them, and put them on another conveyor belt to be taken to a waiting truck. The company uses an algorithm to track how productive its workers are, flagging people for termination if the data shows them underperforming. Amazon has been accused of hiring employees only to let them go within a year. Informally, it is called hire to fire, although Amazon does not use that phrase. Instead, it is called URA, or unregretted attrition rate. That means they won't regret seeing you leave by choice or by firing. Some managers have publicly acknowledged that they felt so much pressure to meet the URA, they hired people they intended to fire. Amazon's management culture does not expect to keep people very long. In June, an explosive story in the New York Times revealed that attrition at an Amazon workforce is 150%. It is necessary to replace their entire workforce every 8 months. Jeff Bezos designed a system where you work hard for 2 years, then move on because of frustration due to lack of promotion opportunity. Amazon denies the company hires employees with the intention of firing them, but it is clear that Amazon has no interest in developing a stable workforce and even sees turnover as part of its business plan. Bezos believed that workers' desire to perform well decreased over time. A stagnant blue-collar workforce is a march to mediocrity, and sales associates are disposable. Not everyone can handle the physical demands of warehouse work. Injuries are high, it does not pay as well as manufacturing. Increasingly, Amazon is ceding tasks once done by people to robots. Machines are the boss, hiring, rating, and firing millions of people with little or no human oversight. Churchill is a small community. Has Hillwood or the borough studied or determined the percentage of Churchill residents that will be employed at the Amazon warehouse? Where do they anticipate the workers will come from? Due to predicted high job turnover, will it become necessary for Amazon to bus workers to the Churchill distribution center like some warehouse towns do when they exhaust the local job pool? Amazon's success at building a monopoly has come at the expense of worker well-being. Worker unrest at these warehouses is growing. So why are we told these jobs are good for Churchill and the East Hills of Pittsburgh? It's easy to get hired, extremely easy to get fired. The pace isn't sustainable for workers, and tons of them only last a few weeks. Efforts to unionize have been squashed by the retail giant. As this resistance grows, Amazon workers are rising up around the world to say, enough, so should we.
And thank you for your comment. We do appreciate it. At this time, I'm going to look to April, see if we can get April on the line.
Hi, Jay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Jay, you and I go back more than 10 years. I'm a 40-year resident of Churchill Borough, and as you know, I've attended many council meetings over those 40 years in person, not just the recent Zoom meetings about the Amazon warehouse. I'm really concerned about this new format that you have with your Zoom webinars. I am a senior citizen, and I've in the past been able to log on and comment, and tonight and the last meeting I was not. And as a younger senior, I'm a little more tech savvy than some of the super seniors. I think a whole group of Churchill residents are being left out of this process. That said, I have spent the past couple weeks reviewing the traffic 600-page plus traffic impact study submitted by Hillwood by Langen. And I noticed on July 2nd that Gateway Engineers approved the traffic impact study with, quote, nominal impact to local residents, to our local roads. I dispute that. I noticed that one of the mitigations is moving the Churchill-Beulah Road intersection 80 feet south of its current position, which basically eliminates the Churchill Commons Garden that the Churchill Garden Club has maintained and put significant money into over the years. And even before Churchill Garden Club took over the maintenance of that site, a former borough manager spent $16,000 to plant trees and shrubs on that site. And then our former mayor expanded that garden, and our current mayor is very active in maintaining that garden. I would like to know, is Churchill Borough donating this land to Hillwood or to PennDOT or to whatever organization is changing the intersection? Are we selling it? Is Churchill Garden Club going to be recompensated for the thousands of dollars we have spent maintaining that site? That's just one problem I have. You know, our mayor, current mayor, asks every time people ask him about this Amazon facility, he says, well, why don't you volunteer in the borough, pick up litter, work in the rain garden, work at Churchill Common sites? I do that. Many residents do that. It's not just about volunteering in the borough. What is the borough getting from this Amazon distribution center? As Sandy Fox and other intelligent researchers have suggested tonight, research shows where Amazon comes into communities, it destroys communities. The proposed and promised jobs are not there. The promised tax increases are not there. The health benefits are horrible. And, you know, I dispute the traffic impact study that says only nominal impact to our local roads. That's not true. We know there's going to be major impact on our local roads. And the fact that they're opening up a second entrance exit on Greensburg Pike across from Pace School with trucks and commuter traffic going
April,
north.
Appreciate your comment. Yeah, you know, I've got a hold to it. So
right,
thank you. And I'm going to see if we have anybody else. And then I think we have anybody else in public comments? Just make sure. All right. I think that clears the deck of public comment. Again, I just want to point out, I appreciate everyone's comments. You know, a lot of the comments over time have been comments that we have.
Do you want to give a chance for the call-in user number 1 to?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't see that they had their.
I can allow them to speak
Yeah.
now.
So I've got one other. I've got call-in user number 1. I don't have a name or a phone number to it, so we're going to unmute you. If you'd like to speak, we'll give you the opportunity. And if not, then we'll move on. My apologies. Thanks, Alex. Borough manager pointed that out for me. So I do want to make sure that you have the chance to speak. So this just lists as call-in user number 1. Okay. So I think safe to say no conversation of caller user number 1. I'll give an extra quick second here. I look over to the borough manager. Similar to the old way, right? Make sure everybody has a chance to speak. All right. Okay. So hearing none, we're going to move forward now onto some general items that we have, beginning with the minutes. I don't know if our vice president was ever able to.
Remind the participants of the council members in the room, you know, just simply like your tablet, unmute yourself when you want to make a motion, and then mute yourself when you're done. For Norma, Diane, I've seen you come in and out, and Adam at home, same thing. You've been made a panelist, so you should be able to unmute at any time, and then make a motion, and then of course, or second the motion, and then remute yourself when you're doing that.
So that being the case.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from June 7th, 2021 council workshop meeting and June 14th, 2021 council regular meeting.
Second.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Norma. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are accepted without opposition. We're going to move our way forward to kind of the combined 4-5 rather.
Mr. President, I move to accept the treasurer's report, and I move to direct the finance officer to pay the bills for the Borough of Churchill accrued since June 14, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the treasurer's report and the bills? As a matter of course, any bill over the amount of $15,000, we do read publicly. While we list more than that, I'm only going to read kind of the ones for 15,000 moving up. Everyone can read the rest for themselves. This time we have 3. They're fairly sizable. First being Vigliotti Landscaping Construction, the amount of $19,680.15. This is for our June 2021 work and plate rental, along with services that were reimbursable. Then we've got the actually looks like it's offline. We've got Gateway Engineers in the amount of $48,490.24. And then lastly, we have Solai Construction in the amount of $36,266.80 for the wonderful Marbury sinkhole, as you all may recall. I don't know if there's any other discussion on the bills or on the treasurer's report. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and the report is accepted. Bills are off to be paid. This moves us on to the mayor's report. Prior to any motion, Mayor, if you would like to say a few words regarding the report or read the report itself.
Mr. Mayor, if I will. As reported to me, I wish to inform council there is no unusual events or no serious crimes during the month of June 2021. Our officers have responded to 1,072 calls for service That would be 4,640 calls year to date for services, resulting in 6 arrests last month. The department's 5 police vehicles logged 6,378 miles in the past month. Chief Ronald Ackerley has reported that the total amount of magisterial fines collected for the month of June 2021 was $471.08, bringing the year-to-date total to $4,727.53. The chief has also reported to me the plan to try to address speeding in our borough. During the month of June 2021, each officer was assigned to conduct routine traffic details on every shift. The targeted areas were the 1400 block of Buell Road and the 2500 block of Greensburg Pike near the William Penn Cemetery. Primary violations officers monitored were for speeding. In total, officers conducted 166 individual details, investing 55.5 manpower hours in their efforts. More than 100 traffic stops were affected. More than 40 citations issued, as well as arrests were made. Officers will continue to keep a watchful eye on these areas, and with the sincere hope of encouraging motorists to be mindful of their traveling speeds throughout the borough to help ensure the safety of our residents. The chief would also like to raise a point of concern with resident communication. As the prospective Amazon facility development continues to be a major issue of discussion, the chief asks that anyone who contacts the borough office personnel to inquire about details or to voice their opinion and or concern, please remember to be respectful in doing so. There have been several incidents more recently where calls received by our staff have been very aggressive, even borderline threatening. Our staff is always happy to take your calls or emails to address any topics. They deserve to be always treated with respect and never to be made to feel threatened or harassed. Details and other related statistics concerning the police department during the month of June 2021 are reported on the attached police department reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I would entertain a motion to accept the mayor's report.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? A couple points I would just make. One, to the mayor, just so you know, in the future, you want to lower your mic and speak into it a little bit. It's okay. You know, just a point for everyone to know. Second point, I believe you were speaking to the idea of residents being disrespectful or people calling and threatening our staff. And you know, one of the things that as we talk about how we do the work that we do, you know, I am somebody who I'm willing to take every arrow you're willing to sling. I've been around for a long time. Nobody here is gonna make me worry. You know, we do this on a volunteer basis on council, and we have a real regard to our community and our citizens, or else why the heck would anybody do this? Our staff, to be clear, are busting their behinds for this community, right? Every day. And what I will not tolerate is individuals coming after our staff. So if folks want to threaten somebody, come threaten me, right? You want to harass somebody, come harass me. But you don't come after our staff who are here doing everything they can for you, who honestly, they put in and day out for you all. And I think 99% of Churchill is in line with that, right? I think 99% of Churchill is not the kind of people who harass people, who threaten people, who call people names. You know, that's not who we are as a community. And if I've got that wrong, then I've got a lot bigger worries than any development, quite frankly. So, you know, I expect that just like me or my neighbors who are, you know, have lots of, you know, positions on all kinds of stuff, that we treat each other with respect. We don't go around calling each other's, you know, morons or traitors or whatever other kind of thing that they want to do. That we try to communicate with respect, and we try to be neighborly, because that's what we've always been here in Churchill, and that's what we will always be here in Churchill if Churchill is to remain the Churchill that I know. So that's my only comment. Unless there's anything else. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just one additional comment to
Bring
that.
yourself in a little bit. Lower
One
your-
additional comment to that.
There you go.
I do talk to all the new residents, and I always tell them that, if they need anything to contact the office, talk to either Krista or Alex. And a lot of times they'll say, we have contacted the office, and they tell me how great they've been treated by the staff in assisting them to get settled into their new home. So I do get a lot of positive feedback from residents who call the office and talk to either Alex or Krista.
And like I said, 99% of our residents, right, are great folks who we all interact when we agree and disagree, right? I have lots of neighbors that I have disagreed with on lots of stuff, and we have remained, we disagree in a, not just a cordial way, but in a helpful way. And that's really what I expect from us moving forward, no matter what goes on here. So just to point that out. Unless there's any other discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we accept the mayor's report without opposition. This moves us into, we have a series of action items, some longer than others. And so we will start with number 7.
I considered the proposed ordinance 760, a motion to approve the ordinance of the Borough of Churchill to adjust the fees for each tax certification letter and certificate of liens letter, adjusting the fees for duplicate tax bills, and deleting the time limit to issue tax certification letters and certificate of liens letter.
Second.
I didn't know if Alex wanted to go into a little bit of
So,
detail.
Right now we can under discussion.
Okay.
So it's fine. It listed out here, but
yeah.
This is that kind of question that we talked about before in the workshop with regard to the tax collector and their ability to set a fee on tax certification letters that was above what was kind of this $20 standard that they had. I would point out that council did have a bit of discussion on whether or not this is something we saw as a fee that was going to get passed on to the individual. And at the end of the day, there is some pass on to it, but it's the kind of thing of when you're purchasing your home, as our colleague to my right here, Matt, has pointed out recently in a refi, that you're looking at, when you do your whole refi, that added into that would be that $30 instead of $20. So that is real, that there is that amount. On the other hand, it was also considered that this is consistent with kind of surrounding boroughs and kind of where it is. It is not something as a matter of record that the borough collects or that the borough gets any of the fee from. That goes straight to the tax collector. So that was my only comment. I don't know if anybody else had any other comments to this before we move to vote on it. Hearing no other comment, this is a roll call.
So to make my life easier, I went ahead and printed the roll call on the agenda, and that's at random order. So I will read the names, and you can say your name. You can see that on the agenda here in a minute. But basically, Councilmember Renthaler?
Yes.
And Councilmember McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Law, and again, we've had some issues of Diane coming in and out. She's in another part of the country this evening, so
understood.
Hopefully we can hear her. Diane, if you have a chance, we have recorded you as present because you've been present most of the meeting. Hearing nothing, I'll go ahead to Councilmember Greco.
Yes.
Councilmember Collins.
Aye.
Councilmember Castiglia.
Aye.
And President Doran.
Yes. And so the motion, the ordinance, and the proposed motion is passed, with one being unable to vote at this time, technical, one being present. Moving forward then to number 8 on our agenda.
Yes, Mr. President, I would make a motion to consider Resolution 4523 and approve such resolution of the Borough of Churchill approving the conditional use application filed by Trek Development Group to construct a multifamily development in Churchill Borough. The property is at 37 Garden Terrace, Pittsburgh, PA, 15221, Allegheny County, parcel ID 0372 G 001000000-00. The proposed plan is to demolish the former Schaefer School and construct a private road with duplexes for senior housing. There will be 20 duplexes, 40 units total, with a mix of 1 bedroom, quantity 30, and 2 bedroom, quantity 10 units. And we'll leave the rest for discussion as it was covered in our previous.
Sounds good. Is there a second? Thank you. Now for the purposes of discussion, again, this is the former Schaefer School site that has been vacant for quite some time. They had looked at a conditional use, with respect to that property. As you see, it kind of listed out here. And this was the circumstance of creating the senior housing. Again, I think I will leave it to you all if there's any other discussion with this.
Mr. President, if I could, I just point out that, and obviously this is a very different conditional use situation than the one that's being considered for the Amazon distribution center. But this is similar in the fact that this is sort of the zoning running a parallel track, but not on the same track as the land development aspect of the development. So that the resolution that you're about to vote on does specifically deal only with the zoning, and it is conditional. It is a conditional approval, not on any specific conditions other than getting the required land development approval for the site plan, as well as compliance with all other statutes, regulations, ordinances, and obtaining all the necessary approvals from third-party regulatory agencies. So it is similar, sort of in that sense, to the pending Westinghouse application.
And to that point, while you bring that up, this is pertaining to that kind of the road and what was the term that we were dealing with before that they needed the variance for? The collector. So am I correct in that?
That's correct. That this particular applicant was unable to comply with one of the explicit conditional use criteria for this type of development. So they took a detour, went to the zoning hearing board, obtained a variance that allows them to essentially connect to a smaller road before they connect to that arterial or collector road.
Right. The magic of what justifies a collector road, or what defines one, and that's really what this is about. Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there any other discussion on this matter? And thank you again, Gavin, for clarifying that, so folks know. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and so the resolution carries and is approved. This moves us on to number 9.
Mr. President, I would move for a motion to accept a proposal to do an Americans with Disability Act ADA review, an architectural feasibility study from Zero Commute Architecture for a fixed fee sum of $2,750, plus the cost of all customary reimbursable expenses incurred in the performance of services. Just as a brief overview, the project description talks about doing ADA study for, I believe it is female locker room, and then some accessibility for bathrooms of the borough building.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? So I will just clarify I've spent, as I said kind of earlier in a different form, a different part of this during the comments. I've spent a very long time working in the space of both disability rights along with addressing victims of discrimination. We at Churchill Borough want to make sure that we are regularly in compliance. And so one of the best ways to do that is to ensure that we have, updated and compliant facilities to ensure that we are in line with Title II of the ADA. Quite frankly, that goes to our physical facilities, but also I think we work to be on the cutting edge on the front end as we look at our new website as well under Section 508. Only other thing I would point out is that this is an ongoing kind of issue across the boroughs throughout Western PA, in that I have spoken with Alex in an attempt to work with the COG on similar issues so that we're able to even have even greater access. That is that. Is there any other discussion on this issue? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and so that carries, and we will move forward. This moves us on to a couple of discussion items. The first of which, the purpose really, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to make sure that people know kind of what's going on. And so I think most people know on this call, but those are on this meeting, but those who aren't, of course, we have the Churchill Creek project. Otherwise, the Westinghouse kind of Amazon Hillwood development issue. And so we have the next public meeting coming up on the 14th, which is Wednesday. And what's the time for that? 7 p.m. And this is with the Planning Commission. And then following that, on the 19th, July 19th, it's kind of an early birthday present for me, because who doesn't want to spend what's going to be days and days going through this. But on Monday, July 19th, the day before my birthday, at 6 p.m., there will be the public hearing via remote video conference to consider the application for conditional use filed by Churchill Creek Project. And what else do I got? Anything else I need to add into that? As much as that is for all of us to know, which I think we all know, it's for everyone to know. And so that will be available to everybody. You should also know my birthday, for those who care, is July 20th. And I'm born the actual day the man landed on the moon, just to point that out, July 20th, 1969. Just throwing that out there. Moving on to, not that anybody should care, but if you do and you want to, wish me a happy birthday, feel free. That's a shameless plug. Give it to me, man. Give it to me. Okay. Having gotten past that, I think it takes us really on to kind of staff and council and reports. I think the one thing that I want to make sure that we've got kind of on the books for us as our group here. So we'll start with manager, what you've got to bring to the table, and then I'll work our way on any reports that anybody may have.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to say I'm very grateful. July 1 was my anniversary of arriving here in Churchill Borough, and I'm just very grateful to work with Ralph Zatlin, Ron, Chief Ackerley at the police, and Krista Kohler. Particularly Ralph and Krista, if you come in this office, the three of us are kind of always working together as a team. I've never in my professional career have been so privileged to work with such honest, hardworking, outstanding, and got your back kind of coworkers. Krista's anniversary will be this week on Thursday, and I've hired dozens of people in my career, literally, and I've never, ever, ever, ever had it close to as great a hire as Krista. But nobody needs to hear that, because I don't want anyone luring her away to go get a job somewhere else. So don't even think about it. That's all.
Thank you. Anything coming from the solicitor? I think there were a couple of questions people had as well. So I'm going to cede the floor to you for a minute and let you speak whatever you want to speak today.
Mr. President, I really don't have anything. There was a question about, whether there's a spot zoning problem with a prior ordinance we passed. That's not something that I would, touch on at a public meeting, other than to say that I disagree with that analysis.
I would think that you would. So I appreciate that. I'm going to look to, just in terms of going through reporting, Dennis, AKA Felipe, what do we have coming from the engineer today?
Just a couple of brief items. One thing to point out, we were notified last week by Three Rivers Wet Weather that the consent orders have been finalized with the DEP, and those should be forthcoming very shortly regarding sanitary sewer. So we will have more information on that in the near future. Our infrastructure projects are proceeding. The Kingsdale Storm Sewer project was completed within the last month. The Grand Boulevard project is expected to be completed in this upcoming month. Our road program is expected to start the end of next week or the following week. And our pump station replacement, gravity sewer replacement project is still in line to start either the end of August or beginning of September. So everything is proceeding along those lines.
Thank you. I'm going to move on, and then I'm going to let council, if we have any questions for folks, to the other one of the other parts of the three-legged stool that keep our borough standing. Ralph, anything that we need to hear, fire or public work?
On the far end, we've been very busy. So far this month, we're up to 25 calls. It's been a busy month with the storms and everything. So appreciate you guys been coming out night and day and night for the fire calls. Public works, everything's good. Like Denny said, we're moving along with all the projects. So I'm looking forward to getting all those projects completed this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And any other committee reports that people need to log in?
Yes, so Councilman Castilla for the Infrastructure Committee. I just wanted to follow up that we had a great meeting this past week. One thing that we're working on is we have a large number of projects to get over to the capital improvements kind of program and documented. So we're starting that legwork, and I appreciate everyone's help on that. We're excited to work through that process and continue the planning for the future here.
Thank you. Appreciate the work. So, Krista, anything we need to know?
Hey, just really quickly, it's not a matter of finance, but I just wanted to take a moment because it is the summertime to remind everyone from the code enforcement perspective about maintaining your grass and your garbage cans. Garbage can ordinance does ask that you do take those in the day at 24 hours after the trash has been picked up. We've noticed that hasn't been happening lately. If like as council members said before, if you see your neighbor's garbage can out, lend a hand. The last thing we want to do is, from a code enforcement perspective, is dole out warnings, but we do want to maintain the borough amidst everything else that is happening. Same with grass. We understand there's been heavy rains lately. If you do receive a notice, just give a call, make sure that you obeyed or correct. That's all we want it to do. We don't want to go any further than just the grass being cut. But that's come up very recently in phone calls that we've received. So we just want to take a moment and remind every one of those two, code enforcement items. Thank you.
Super appreciate it. And quite frankly, it is one of those things that all of our neighbors, something happens, things happen, we get it. But on the other hand, we do care about our community. We do want it to look its best, and we're not interested in that becoming an issue. And sometimes, quite frankly, if you have a neighbor that normally is really on top of it, and suddenly you're seeing that the grass isn't being cut and the garbage is being left out, check on them. Right? Just make sure your neighbors are okay. There's a lot more that goes into this than simply I don't want to cut the grass sometimes. And so I would just throw that out as kind of a piece of kind of human relations. That being the case, I will offer around the table to anyone who has any last comment from council. You don't have to comment, so I'm going to just kind of leave it open on an offer. And if anybody has any final comments before we head out, floor is yours, man.
So I did just want to take a moment to thank our residents. There's been a lot of emails coming in, and we do take the time to distribute those, review those, and put a lot of time and effort into going over that information. For example, I think recently there was a comment that came in, dealing with different developments, et cetera. And a particular one, I guess, where there was a problem. It was very eye-opening and interesting because I was able to connect with that development across the country and actually talk to their local engineer. Some of the problems, I guess, were from a number of years ago. So, some of that stuff, I guess they've learned, they've developed, and it was good information to be passed along. So we appreciate your comments. We appreciate the input. It certainly is needed, and it's welcome. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt, for your comment. Anybody else have any comments they want? So hearing that, I will close really quickly just by saying, Matt brings up one of the greatest things about Churchill and our residents, irrespective of where you are on any of the issues that we've had, whether it is, the current development, whether it's been the deer, whether it's been the fracking, whatever it's been. We have really smart people who live here, who put in real time and real concerns. And so when you're passing that information to us, please know that we take it very seriously. And that a lot of it has been very eye-opening. Some of it has been where we've been able to contact and figure out what happened or what didn't happen. Some of it is really, there's been a few times that people have passed on articles that I've reached out to communities and found out, some of the question was about the writer of the article, not so much what was going on with the community, and vice versa. But we appreciate you all, and I hope you see that we're putting all we can for you. My very, very last comment, not only is it my birthday coming up, but if you happen to pass by my house and see my giant puppy running around outside, Huey, who is my 120-pound now dog, it is also his birthday on July 15th. Just a little something to let you know. He turns 1 at a solid 120. So unless there's anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Thank you, Matt. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, game, set, match. Heard a couple people on it. Thank you all very much for coming out. We appreciate all of you. Take care.